Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Aaron's Book Club. Forgive all of this, actually. There we go. Bit better. So I just got back from my day at the barn, so I needed a shower and everything. But let's talk Lord of the Flies. So I have never read Lord of the Flies before. It was something that never really interested me, and I didn't have to read it for school. The fact that you have to read it for school is something we're going to talk about too, because that's scary. Anyway. So, Lord of the Flies. First of all, cover is amazing. I really love this copy of the book. William Golding is kind of a genius. The way that he writes kind of sucks you into the story, lulls you into a false sense of this is going to be a community coming together to survive whatever beast is in the forest kind of story. And then all of a sudden slams you with, no, actually, this is a study of the human mind and how deviant it can get. And then let's factor into that only males and only underdeveloped males' human mind. And then we're going to spot in that underdeveloped human minds, we're going to have some human minds with mental capacities that are different and some psychopathies. And let's see how that all works out. And the way that he turned young boys into vicious killers without even really showing you, just all of a sudden you've got the horror of the book. So well done. So well done. The concept of this crash or whatever that caused them all to be abandoned here, and all of them, including the little ones that couldn't produce for society, couldn't help for society, so they were kind of shoved away on the wayside and not paid attention to and barely cared for, other than by the one boy who then eventually gets abandoned because he is fair. It's interesting. It's interesting to see the author's concept of how society will fail when there's no authority given. And how in the vacuum of authority, something will take its place, and sometimes that something is far, far worse. And how sometimes rules, if thought up properly and made for the people, are actually better than no rules. The deaths that happened in this book are very real and very quickly glossed over, but they're very stark. Like, he doesn't coddle you with the deaths. And nothing in these books happens that I know hasn't happened in society. And in a lot of society, it's happening now. It's very similar to The Handmaid's Tale that way, except it's more of a immature view written for kids. It's a cautionary tale, I think, that says, let's learn from what went wrong in the past, or else maybe this will go wrong again. And all the characters are fascinating, and I'm not even going to say all of them show growth, except for the main character, who he does show growth morally, but he's ostracized for it. So he does have a growth that way, whereas all the other characters seem to have a degradation to them. And it's a great example of how authority, perceived or real, can actually make a huge influence on a society, and how quickly humans can react to that authority even when they really shouldn't, and how I was just following orders is actually the worst thing, the worst defense that you can come up to, because I was just following orders, ended up in one little boy that got beat to death during a chanting dance, and another little boy who got, first of all, bullied and manipulated throughout the entire story, and then thrown off a cliff and cracked his head open. There's a lot to unpack in. How long is this book? It's not very long. 206 pages? 206 pages. And we go from a happy society that's surviving to, like, surviving and waiting for rescue, to the entire world that they live in imploding on itself. And what's interesting, it's that implosion on itself. It's that complete and utter devastation of that island that caused the rescue. Which in itself is amazing, right? Because if there wasn't the rescue, yeah, that main character probably would have been killed by the other characters, impaled by the other characters. But you've burned the island, so how long are your resources going to survive? And that very implosion, that very destruction, brought the rescue. Just an amazing read, and I think it's a read that I'm going to have to do again. What I'm concerned about is this is a read that I guess grade school kids are supposed to read, and I guess it was assigned learning in grade school. And I don't know if the kids will be able to get or grasp most of the concepts on this book. I don't think that it's a book that shouldn't be read to class. It probably should, because you could learn a lot from it, but I also think that it should be read to class with a lot of support and individual discussion with the teacher about this, because this book is super impactful if it's done right. If not, you're just reading another horror story. It's interesting. And it's one of my classics now that I think I'm really going to enjoy and read again. So thanks for listening to me talk about Lord of the Flies. And I will let you know when I have another book read.